Hi there. My name is Kay Moon, and I'm a twin flame channel and Western astrologer. And this is the Aquarius New Moon Lightworker Energy Update. Aquarius New Moon taking place on February 9th at 5:58 p.m. If you happen to be on the eastern seaboard of the United States, please check a time zone converter for your local time. Okay, very exciting new moon we have here. I have a few announcements. The first one is that on Thursday, February 8th at 4 p.m. Eastern, I will be live right here on this channel doing a little update on Pluto in Aquarius for all 12 signs. So if you'd like to join me for that, we'll also have a little time for chit chat and Q&A about what this will mean for the collective at large, and it'll be an opportunity for you to ask questions. So mark your calendar, Thursday, February 8th at 4 p.m. Readings are available for the month of February. Definitely take a look at the community page for some of the smartest love questions folks are asking as we head into this year's Valentine's Day. You can book with me over at K Moon Astro. I look forward to our chat. And thirdly, I am now taking podcast and guest host invitations. If you've got a twin flame or astrology podcast or channel on YouTube or TikTok with 1,000 or more subscribers, and you'd like to add some content that you don't have to think up and create because you'd rather sit back and interview and let someone else do the talking, then hit me up at kay at kmoonastro.com with a link to your podcast or channel and your interview topic suggestion, and we can get something scheduled. Right now, I'm scheduling interviews on 2024 channeled messages for twin flames and astrological best dates for love, money, and healing, as well as some of the unusual astrological transits of 2024. So if you've got a podcast or channel with 1,000 or more subscribers and you're up for having me as a guest, I'd love to hear from you. If you're new here, welcome. Stick around to the end where I'll do something called First Look and give you a sneak peek at my first impression of the upcoming full moon in Virgo on February 23rd. This way, you'll have a full sense of the way the month of February is going to play out. And lastly, oh my God, you guys, thank you. I was blown away and so grateful that when I asked if you use the timestamps and how you watch the content in the last video, you guys really answered. I read every single comment, and I thank you for taking the time to let me know what is useful to you, how you interact with the videos, and what you don't use. For now, I'll keep doing the timestamps as long as I have some time to do them, since some of you do seem like you really need them and definitely use them. Speaking of unusual transits for 2024, let's talk about this new moon in Aquarius, shall we? Okay. And just trying a little something here to make this timestamp thing easier. The new moon in Aquarius is taking place at this 20th degree of Aquarius here and is receiving a square from Uranus in Taurus. And Uranus is the ruling planet of Aquarius. So that makes this square extra potent, extra special. We've got a sextile from Chiron here in Aries, 60-degree angle there at that 16th degree. And we've got a trine to Vesta in Gemini here at that 21st degree. So, this is fun. I want to say that this is likely one of the most important, most transformative, and life-changing new moons of 2024. There is another that certainly exceeds it at the new moon in Taurus in May, which I've been preparing you for since last year, but this is definitely a prelude and setup for that. The reason why this new moon is so consequential is because of the influence of Uranus, big change, big daddy change energy. Uranus governs Aquarius, but at a square to the new moon, it opens up tension in accessing all things Uranian and Aquarian and things that the planet and the sign represent. The new, the next, the evolutionary, and the quantum leap forward. The issue here is that Uranus is in Taurus, the sign that governs all of our creature comforts, our biological sensations, and our form, as well as our heart's desire. And let's not forget money. Uranus has been evolving our desires since late 2018 when he arrived here in Taurus, moving us toward more evolved ways of feeling fulfilled here on Earth. With this new moon, there is a pull toward evolution, which comes at the cost of giving up our creature comforts. There's a need to jump forward in our consciousness with some challenges getting the 3D to align in ways that feel comfortable. The name of the game here is that everything we want, it's outside of our comfort zone. To get new, we gotta be new. Or, as I like to say, to get things we've never had, we need to be willing to do some things we've never done. This will be especially true in the house that Aquarius governs in your natal chart. The sextile from Chiron to this new moon amplifies the fact that we will need to look beyond our comfort zone to actualize our solutions, as there may be some triggers, some sensitivities, some old wounds that come up to empower us not to repeat cycles. Now, this is going to be a really great thing because there is an opportunity to open up new timelines that get us out of cycles of harm with this Chiron aspect. Woohoo! The tenderness or any upset or frustration that shows itself at this new moon will reveal opportunities to be empowered in our next steps, right alongside, as long as we're looking beyond the vulnerability and the tenderness to the solutions. So, a couple of examples. I think I mentioned that I have a close friend who's moving through a divorce process at this time, and got some surprising Uranian news from his lawyer about how much they'd have to pay and some alimony and child support. And it was an amount that was unexpected and frankly frustrated my friend because it became clear that even though he's going to be paying that amount, none of it was going to go to his child's education. Um, so that was a shocker to him. And surprisingly, he shocked himself with his orientation to solution. His mindset was, you know what? I built it all once. I'll build it again. I know that I'll never be in this place I was in before, where I let myself ignore myself to the point where I could be in a situation that could end like this. I know who I am now and I know what I got to do. Past is a past, trucking forward. Another example, I had a client in recovery who's in the process of losing a dear friend. And this friend that is in the process of transitioning off the planet expressed some concern to my client that my client would relapse and start drinking again after her friend dies. Now, my client is indeed triggered. Don't get me wrong. The feelings are up, but she has put things in place, resources, support, coaching, therapy, contributing to the world in ways that make her feel significant, needed, wanted, held, chosen, and loved to ensure that drinking again, not an option for her. Example number three, I have an acquaintance who asked for some time to not have to talk to their mom because mom been really emotionally abusive to the point where it's not that tossed around, word we use for people called narcissism just because the mom likes, to do her own thing. No, this is legitimately emotionally abusive, textbook, diagnosably narcissistic. My acquaintance friend took a 2-year no contact with mom. 2 years is up this month. And now friend is looking at what would it mean to be in contact again with the new tools developed and practiced over the last 2 years or if potentially a different approach might be needed, since the reality is what he's wanted and needed from mom has not been available by any stretch of the imagination. You get the idea. There's some sort of change here, but to get to the next step, it's gonna require that we're willing to be smidge uncomfortable as we exercise our power. Does my friend want to do with the money what the lawyers are telling him he has to do when he can't even like ensure his kid gets a great education with it? No. But can he change the situation now? Also, no. Lamenting over the past, not going to help any of us. Is the client in recovery slightly offended that her friend didn't believe her enough to trust that she'd be okay once her friend transitioned? You know she was triggered. And she recognized there was a past that was then and this is now. She stood in the reality that she can't change the fear and concern her past gave her friend, but she can stay committed to her sobriety. Does the friend who talked about who hasn't talked to his mom in a couple of years want to talk to her now? Extend the time without talking? No, he doesn't want to do either one of those things. But he knows he needs to keep moving forward in his trauma recovery. The mom he wants is not the mom he's got. But that's not stopping him from seeking out the best possible life that he can create. So you get the idea. In some cases, not all, but in some cases, because this is a square, squares do not pertain or do not, what's the word I'm looking for? Portend ease or smoothness. There are some cases where what we want is not available at this time due to the Uranus square this new moon. Nevertheless, a new path is opening up. The options that make us feel good and cuddly and excited and like life is perfect and peachy, probably not available right now. The options that are available are the ones that instead have the potential, if we're willing to pick up our power, have the potential to make us feel strong, empowered, grounded in the present and not the past, capable of moving forward, remembering who we are, and support us with marching to the beat of our own drum and running our own race. These are the options that require new solutions, new ideas, and new thinking on our part to open up a new timeline. And, to my friends and clients who listen, I got to say, I'm massively inspired by your capacity for growth and newness and willingness to draw a line between the past and the present. You guys are truly my heroes. We've got this trine to Vesta here from the sign of Gemini, and it's giving us the opportunity to explore. That's Gemini, talk through. That's Gemini, what we can commit to. That's Vesta with our collaborators. What are the options for win-win-win solutions here? This is one of those energies where things are going to be evolving with a lot of speed, momentum, and very quickly. That's air, Gemini and Aquarius. To give us a chance to jump, that's Aquarius and Uranus too, onto a whole new timeline. But we will need to take action rather than hesitate and wait. Even if the action is just on self improvement, while we continue to look for new opportunities in work, career, health, money, or allow others a chance to get their lives up to speed before they can collaborate with us. Many times, as we've gotten closer to this lunation in readings with clients, I've explained several times to folks that information is going to be evolving. Information and opportunities will be forthcoming, but that does not mean that this is a waiting game. That does not mean sit back and hold your breath until they, the job, the ex, the boyfriend, your kid, your neighbor contacts you. No, this is not a time to wait around and sit on your laurels. You still have things you need to do to be prepared when opportunity comes knocking. So that's where we're at with this new moon in Aquarius. And if you need any help figuring out what you're supposed to be doing while information is evolving, you know where to find me, kmoonastro.com. Happy to do a reading for you, link below this video. Now, a trend I'm seeing as Pluto is settling into Aquarius is a ton of transition around home and work. So, Pluto's just arrived at that 0 degree mark of Aquarius in the last 10, 12-ish days. As Pluto is settling in here, Pluto's creating a lot of ruckus, certainly in our friendships, that's Aquarius, our communities and collectives, also Aquarius. And our sovereignty, that's Leo, and helping us figure out, okay, do we own this problem? Do we not own this problem? Is this my responsibility? Is it not my responsibility? In work, that's Capricorn. A lot of transition around work as Pluto wraps up its 14-year stay in the sign that governs work and careers. And there's definitely ending for many of us in our career sector, career chapters and in home as well, because Pluto's one of these planets that's powerful enough. It also impacts its opposing sign, Cancer, which is all about home, family, where we live, the abode, the dwelling, but in addition to that, the place where we've come from, the neighborhood, the people. So if there's endings in these arenas, no surprise there. Those changes and transitions are part of the party as Pluto moves on and helps us pick up our power in the sign of Aquarius, which is really helping us march to the beat of our own drum, our own uniqueness, and figure out, well, what's next in terms of owning our power here in our creative authority? That's the Leo piece on Earth. We're going to talk a lot more about this in depth when we do the Pluto in Aquarius, all 12 signs on Thursday, February 8th. Mark your calendar. Can't wait to see ya. But for now, if you're experiencing some changes in the arena of work or home, know that you are right on schedule, right in alignment with the vibrational energies. There's supposed to be transition for many of us at this time, but this is especially true if Capricorn or Cancer governs your fourth or 10th house. So, if you need help figuring out what your path is while this transition is unfolding, then we should talk. In your chart, we're able to see best career paths for the most fulfillment spiritually and emotionally, greatest impact, where you can be the biggest service, and the most money. We're also able to see if now is actually a time for change for you, or if that time is yet to come, so you don't jump ship too early. And we can also see if the best path for you is something entrepreneurial or contributing as a team member to an established business. We can see best times for launching a project or for job searching. And if you're moving through some challenging transitions in the world of work, we can also look at coworkers, customers, your bosses, and how any challenging changes or interpersonal dynamics fit into your lessons for this season to illuminate your best choices. There have been a number of people who have jumped into something entrepreneurial in the last 6 months as Pluto is wrapping up in Capricorn, just stepping into Aquarius, who are really struggling because they just don't know how to market and sell. And frequently we'll see something going on the axis of PR and marketing. If that's the case, for those of you who know that's the truth for you, I've told you where you need to go to learn how to market and sell. Definitely take a minute to follow those resources up. But if marketing and selling just isn't your jam, it might be that, and your chart can definitely show us that trying to start your own thing is only going to frustrate you and have you wondering if you're traumatized or removing blocks or spinning in circles when the truth is, ain't nothing wrong with you. You're just not built for it. And that's okay. We need people in all the areas, not just one. And there's certainly been a glorification of, working for yourself in the last 8 to 9 years with the uberization of industry and economy and the workforce, but that does not mean that it is the right thing for everyone. In fact, as many people are finding out, it sometimes works a lot better if you can work for somebody else and keep the benefits and the perks that come with that. Which you're cut out for is definitely going to be shown in your chart. And if you are cut out for entrepreneurship, but you just don't quite know how to get the wheels moving, we'll be able to see a lot of your message. We'll be able to see some of your brand in your chart. We'll also see your niche and the people you serve best in your chart. So if you've got some questions about that, definitely have a look over at K Moon Astro for a 30 or a 60-minute session so that we can get you squared away and get you the ball rolling and get you out of stagnation. Now, let's have a look at some of the other supporting energies to these main themes at this new moon, shall we? First thing that stands out is that at the moment, all planets are moving direct. Hooray! And they're going to be moving direct through about April. When we have all the planets moving direct, what we get is a period of time of breakthroughs, movement, momentum, and foundation building. Nothing to review, nothing to double check, nothing to look back on. Really, it's an opportunity where there's all green lights. I don't know if you've ever been driving down the highway and every single light you hit turns green just as you approach. This is the kind of momentum we have between now and April, May. If you have something that you want to launch or create or start or get out there in the world, now is definitely the time to take it on, even if it's just an experiment. Because there's so much forward movement with all the planets direct, you're going to get a lot of opening available to you with whatever it is you're trying to create. Secondarily, we also have an energy of Mercury in Aquarius, square Jupiter in Taurus. Here is our Mercury. Oh, gotta highlight that. Here is our Mercury. Here is our Jupiter. Mercury being consciousness, mind, and communication. Jupiter being expansion, hope, faith, optimism, and opportunity. The square will bring a level of optimism to our ideas that can borderline the delulu if we are not careful. It's still a good idea to double check the plans, make sure we've got a backup, and be measured in our confidence. Confidence and courage are great. New ideas for changes to our physical reality, because Jupiter is in an earth sign, will appear with this configuration, and Mercury is an air sign that governs the new and the next. That's Aquarius. So it's going to be imperative to stay in collaborative conversation with the people impacted by the changes that we want to make. Whether you need to talk to a business partner or a house or a flatmate, or I don't know, your parents, your kids, your neighbor, your coworkers, especially since Mercury is in the sign of the collective, collaborative input will keep us from going too far off the deep end. This is a great energy for second opinions in all matters related to money, related to health, and more. And speaking of second opinions, let's just see here. We have Mercury trine the Shaman's asteroid, Make. So let's just highlight that. Here's that Mercury at the 7th degree of Aquarius. Here's the Shaman's asteroid here in air sign Libra. This energy opens up opportunities for communication about healing, wisdom, and lessons learned from long journeys of self-discovery. This is a great time to enroll in any kind of coaching or counseling, especially with people who have come out the other side of what you may be going through now and can show you exactly how it's done. And yes, this enhances the clarity and any second opinions you may need to get at this time, whether it's a legal second opinion, a medical second opinion, a dental second opinion. let's just say even like a mechanic second opinion on your vehicle. If you need to get some additional information in order to make the best decision for yourself, now is the perfect time to get it. With Chariclo's conjunction to Mercury here, she's the divine intercessor. The ascended loved ones that you know have passed on may come through at this time with messages to let you know that they're okay, that they're among those who love them, and to encourage you forward on your journey. So, for those in need of those messages from transitioned loved ones, be on the lookout for the contact at this time. Given the Aquarian placement of Mercury, it may come in some unusual or unpredictable, shocking, or sudden ways. Nevertheless, they're there, they're watching, they're looking. So, if you're looking for a message, this new moon at Aquarius may definitely give it to you. Okay, next we have Venus and Mars conjunct Pluto here. Sextile Neptune. Here is Neptune. And trine Chiron here. Let's have a look at that. It's a very fun configuration, and that is a tongue-in-cheek euphemism for those of you who know the astrology. You already know why. This is the big one. Whenever Venus and Mars get together, there's always passion. And passion is not a bad thing. It is fireworks, it is outwardly expressed desires of the heart that can kind of bubble over or erupt. But when Mars and Pluto get together, and Mars is this red one, Pluto is this blue one, that passion can turn in ways that are empowering or overpowering, depending on one's relationship to their own emotions. Mars and Pluto can bring out the shadow side in one another, where the shadow side of Mars is war and aggression, and the shadow side of Pluto is needless death and destruction. They definitely cross every single year. So we don't have a war breakout every single year when Mars and Pluto touch. What makes this different and unique is the way that Chiron and Venus are also in the mix, bringing up triggers and old wounds and things we might have held on to, like vendettas, that kind of thing. Given Mars's outward projected motion, this can bring a level of lashing out, punishing others, or in other ways, making other people responsible for our big emotions. The square from Chiron intensifies things because it can incite sensitivity or not enoughness based on past wounds or old stories about ourselves or situations. This Mars Venus Pluto combo can lead to overcompensation through rash or destructive behaviors, blaming, shaming, fault finding, abdicating responsibility, finger pointing. Well, I only did Y because you did X kind of thinking and behaviors can come up with this. Catch yourself. Two wrongs never made anything right. So the old saying goes, shutting down, pushing away, quote unquote, teaching them a lesson, lashing out, and other passive aggressive modes of communicating your hurt, disappointment, frustration, or anger will only make things worse at this time and take things fairly rapidly from a downward spiral into explosive destruction with likely unintended consequences. No one is saying turn the other cheek and be the bigger person by ignoring bad treatment here. But this is the right time to talk things out. Note what you're feeling, why you're feeling it, and what the unmet need is so you can communicate it with words rather than harsh or punitive actions. And if we're talking about collectives, great time for working with restorative justice practices. Okay. The saving grace in this combination is Neptune. For once, I am so grateful to see Neptune forming a major aspect here. This and the sextile specifically, because this is going to really support us. Sextiles can provide benefit with a little effort from us, and Neptune at this angle to Mars in particular can be very altruistic, really wants to put others before itself. And at this same angle, the sextile to Venus can also assist us with visionary and creative solutions to problems that could arise from this inner intensity that wants to burst out. It also predisposes us to compassion and can open up our intuition about where other people might be at so that we can facilitate harmony where there may be fractures. This particular combination can help us so understanding where discord may have risen, both within ourselves and between those we love. So if any inner tension begins to arise the week before, the week of, and then the week after this new moon, I want you to remember this. Its purpose is to reveal where we have been misaligned with our own power. That's Pluto, the dominant energy here, because it's the outermost planet. And its intention is to help us, give us the oomph, the passion, the inner fire to act in that power once again. But we don't need to burn bridges in order to cross them. We do not have to slam doors in order to walk out of them. We don't have to punish people who picked up and used their power simply because we weren't able to use our own. Often, we may get upset with people who are more comfortable with exercising their power to get what they want in life, instead of learning from them that we too can do the same. With this new moon, we get an opportunity to acknowledge that we've changed in our relationship to our power. We want new things, and we can act and communicate accordingly. Other times, we may find ourselves upset with people who use their power in new ways because they aren't acting the way we want them to anymore. They don't want to pick up our kids anymore. They don't want to call the way they used to. They don't stop by our desk the way they once did or offer to help. If people no longer want to participate in the connection in the ways we're used to them participating, it's okay to check in and ask, hey, something changed. Acknowledge we love connecting with them and ask how they'd like connection to look going forward and be open to receiving that information from them. Upset in either case, wholly unnecessary when we can be comfortable using our power and letting others use theirs. If you're at a crossroads with the interpersonal lessons that are arising now at work, with money and relationships and friendships, or with family, or you're noticing this tension rising and you've got decisions that you have to make in these areas, now's the perfect time to book a reading with me over at kmoonastro.com. We can look at what the lessons are that are personal to you as opposed to just the collective lessons. And we can also look at the best choices for you given the overarching lessons in leadership you're called to in this lifetime. This way, you don't unconsciously repeat a pattern that you're ready to break free from. Thank you, Pluto. That's just one of my favorite things about Pluto and Aquarius, because Pluto's all about power, and Aquarius holds the frequency of freedom for both us and everyone we're connected to. You can book with me now over at kmoonastro.com. Link is below the video as well. Moving on, we have a fabulous grand Earth trine that I love to see. So good. This grand Earth trine is Uranus up here at the top, in a trine to this Venus Mars conjunction here in Capricorn. And here is Juno. She's the only one retrograde, and a lot of people don't even consider her a planet, but nevertheless, I legitimate her as the divine feminine's voice. This is probably one of my favorite elements of this new moon because Venus and Juno are both our love and commitment planets. Venus, love, Juno, commitment. And Uranus is surprises and quantum leaps forward, divine intervention. I've been telling y'all that some of the best energy for love this year is right out of the gate, these early months of the year. And this is part of why. This extended conversation between Juno and Uranus in particular, as Juno slowed down to retrograde, then station retrograde, all while talking to Uranus, and now Venus in the mix, attraction, chemistry, the bubbly feelings of love, such positive energy for love and surprises, surprise proposals, surprise conversations that lead to moving in together, becoming official, taking relationships to the next level in multiple ways. And in particular, that Venus Mars Pluto connection can make things extra spicy, of the physically intimate nature, steamy and passionate. Again, this is not theoretical. That's air. It is not some form of spiritual union and connection. That's fire, nor is it emotional. That's water. All of this energy is in an earth sign, Uranus and Taurus, Mars, Venus in Cap, and Juno in Virgo. And this allows us to have things in romantic connection come to fruition in the world of physical form. So we're talking money, houses, physical bodies, structures, and boundaries, the third dimension. Such positive energy for our love lives and the beginning of some of the best energy we're going to get for love all year, like I said. It's so good, you guys, so good. So if you're the one who's thinking about proposing, now's a pretty good time. I mean, provided you and your person have talked about it, I always recommend y'all talk about it, but yeah, now's a great time for that. Um, the Juno retrograde for some people may have had things begin to move slightly slower, but it's not a complete reversal as much as it's an opportunity to dot I's and cross T's to make sure both people are on the same page. Now, for some people, this energy as well is the kind of energy that can create finalized divorces or complete relationships that have run their course, given that Pluto is part of the conversation and Pluto's all about endings, completions. And Juno, the marriage asteroid, is in reverse herself. But when Juno goes direct, there is a chance some level of revisit or renegotiation may be necessary after April or May, depending if you finalized anything while Juno has been retrograde, and that started back in January. Okay. So just be aware of that breakups and whatnot, details that got ironed out during a Juno retrograde sometimes end up getting revisited post Juno retrograde, very similar to a Venus retrograde in that regard. And that, again, retrograde completes April 21st, April, May, June. You may find some things have to get revisited, rehashed. Venus square Chiron. Let's mark that out here. And let me make a note of it. Here is Venus square Chiron. Venus, Chiron in Aries, Venus in Capricorn. This aspect can open up a sense of compassion for others and self that initially starts with a deeper acknowledgement of our own wounds, struggles, and low self esteem. In this case, because Chiron is in Aries, the sign of our self and identity, with regard to our desires, talking to Venus, sign of our desires, also having to do with work, that's Capricorn, money, that's Venus, and our ambition, that's Aries. The challenge at this new moon is that with this Chiron and Venus in a square formation to each other, it can stir up our impetus to change and release trying to change as a compensation for who we used to be or what we went through before. And instead, we can use it to catalyze change to be in alignment with what we want to experience in truly let the past go. It would be very easy in this energy to give into, again, the passive aggressive thinking, this time utilizing that against ourselves. That because we grew up in poverty as our parents did, that we have to have a career that generates a ton of money and wealth, even if it's not our true soul calling. Our unhappiness is nothing compared to repeating a generational cycle of poverty. You can actually have money and be happy. That is a possibility. Or let's say because maybe our parents got divorced and were cruel to one another in that process, holding on to some idea that we have to stay in an unhappy, dysfunctional marriage to not perpetuate the same trauma on our children. And this kind of using the past as an excuse to have less than what you want in the present are some of the thought traps that Venus square Chiron at a new moon in Aquarius, which loves to look out for the collective and others, can facilitate for us. We can put others' needs above our own with a lot of presumption and assumption, when in actuality, it is going to be best to not use the past as a way of paving our future. The opportunity in this is to have a look at where we are using our woundedness to count ourselves out of the good life we're capable of having, or even count others out, believing in their woundedness and brokenness as a reason they don't deserve us, they don't deserve love, they don't deserve money, they don't deserve a job, etc. The opportunity is to look for transcendence, since Chiron has two sides, not just the wound, but Chiron also holds the wisdom. We have a chance with this energy to see that we are not who we once were and give ourselves permission to live into our dreams, choice by choice in our lives. This is definitely enhancing our ability to write a new script for our lives and for the people in it. And that is an exciting, exciting energy. Just catch yourself if you get into any of those thought traps that I mentioned, because those triggers are definitely available to fall into at this time. Also, we have here Jupiter sextile Saturn. Here's Jupiter and Saturn. Again, I love this sextiling energy. It is so balanced and so even. And it's one of the most stabilizing influences for everything we've talked about here. For all the ways Jupiter and Mercury square can create overconfidence, and the Uranus square to the new moon can bring surprises, Jupiter, Uranus, and sextile open up the potential for grounded, stable, consistent, empowered movement forward, and faith that if we take the right steps, highest level outcomes will follow. Where at other times we might easily give in to defeatist thinking or delusional whims when Mercury and Jupiter are in conversation. When Saturn and Jupiter are in the sextile as part of it, this keeps us from having a measured approach to optimism and just the right amount of applied reality to keep us from walking out of windows thinking we can fly, but not enough pessimism to prevent us from grabbing that squirrel suit and enjoying the glide down. Now, I love this because there are so many other, frankly, very impulsive energies in the atmosphere at this time. This energy is available as the voice of reason. It says, do not give up on your dreams because they may look impractical at the moment, but instead use your power to take the steps you can take today to make them real. And I love that messaging as a grounding force for the way this lunation is playing out. Lastly, but not leastly, we have creation goddess Haumea trine Saturn. Here is Saturn again in Pisces, and here's our creation goddess Haumea. They're in a nice 120-degree angle to one another. And this energy enhances Saturn's normally very corrective influence and adds a bit of support for creativity and working outside of the box, coloring outside of the lines. It encourages us to release feeling beholden to the past, that's the Scorpio influence, and begin again. by connecting with possibility and potential. That's the Piscean influence. To confront our fears, that's again creation goddess in Scorpio, as she is in that sign that governs our fears, and instead exercise some faith with Saturn and Pisces. Super exciting energies that we can use to get unstuck, break free, elevate our lives, and take new approaches to old challenges at this new moon. I really love it. If you have not already hit the like button, please do. It totally helps the content. So while there are some stabilizing influences supporting our growth, as I mentioned, at this particular new moon in Aquarius, there's tension-filled influences as well that are also supporting our growth. This is just the right amount of like kick in the pants while also kind of a sense of like, oh, I knew I had to go anyway, so let me get started. This can create some confusion when it comes to knowing what to do with challenging or confronting situations, especially if you're at a crossroads. But your answers are available in your natal chart. Now, if you're guided to have a look at how to work with this energy and get a peek at what's in store for the rest of 2024, you can book a February reading with me over at Moon Astro, and we'll talk soon. And if you're new, welcome. We'll get to first look in just a moment. So glad you're here. But as I said, I'm now taking interview invitations for podcasts and YouTube. So if you've got a twin flame or astrology podcast or channel, even on TikTok with 1,000 or more subscribers, and you'd like to add some content that you don't have to create because you'd like to sit back and let someone else do the talking, hit me up at KAY at kmoonastro.com with a link to your podcast or channel and your interview topic suggestion, and we'll see if we can get something scheduled. Let's have a look at the full moon in Virgo on February 2nd, 7:30 p.m. Eastern. Let me pull that up. New share. Virgo full moon. Ta-da! Okay. And timestamp for that. Let's mark it down. Okay, so here is our Virgo full moon. And like I said, it's February 24th, 7:30 p.m. Eastern. If you happen to be on the eastern seaboard of the United States, definitely check a time zone converter for your local time. First impressions. This is my first time seeing this chart, so let's have a look together. Here is our new moon. Sorry, full moon in Virgo, basically conjunct Juno and Lilith. Well, that tells an interesting story right up front about relationships and obstinacy, but let's look a little deeper, shall we? We've got Uranus here making that trine aspect once again to this full moon. Uranus has played a real starring role in the lunation so far this year. This tells us a lot about why this year is so cataclysmic and so movement oriented with change. Let's see. We also have, okay, little opposition here from Saturn conjunct the Sun. Very interesting. And, okay, we got little in conjunct action, not really. Okay, so we'll leave that off. Okay, we've got a trine with Ceres and Pholus in conjunction down here in Capricorn. Okay, well, this is fascinating. So my first impression here is that there are some changes being made in relationship back at the Aquarius New Moon, which I just talked about, that as we get into the Virgo full moon at the tail end of February, are going to get very solidified because of the way Saturn is playing such a significant role and Lilith as well. With these solidifications, yeah, series 2 marking the end of a cycle, the end of a season, and the opening of a new cycle and new season, a new chapter. With this combination, this is telling me that something out of the box likely took place in the middle of February, that as we get to the tail end of February, things start to gel. There seems to be some sort of cohesion that fosters stability. Um, Things are still a little uncanny. There's still some surprises that could take place because of Uranus's action on this full moon in connection with Juno and Lilith. But the surprises this time look a little bit more like, because of Lilith's intervention, people doing things out of the box their own way. And we don't necessarily get a say. This is less collaborative than the new moon in Aquarius. This is a lot more people kind of, doing things their own way, and we can either like love it or leave it, but we don't get to intervene on it. So something interesting here is unfolding in the world of certainly relationship, yes, also career, and it's opening up some question marks for us around our wholeness and integrity. And we'll talk more about that when we get to this Virgo full moon, because the influence, the dominating influence that Saturn has on this full moon, it's going to allow us to really see things from an unemotional lens, but it's also going to give us some permission to really say, I can or I can't participate in that because it does or does not enhance my wholeness. And so, yeah, like I said, we'll talk a lot more about this when we get there, but things take a more grounded turn as we get toward the end of the month. So, exciting times. Like I said, this is some of the best energy for love overall this year, these early lunations of the year, and for transformation in relationships. So, if you need any support with that, you know where to find me. I love you guys. Another awesome, great lunation together. Take great care, and we will talk soon. Bye for now.